My name is Glenn Twist, and welcome back to the Batman Arkham series. So today we're going to talk about the Bat family and what exactly happens within the Bat family before an upcoming DLC and before Batman Arkham Asylum. But before we do that, I wanted to explain some things I didn't actually explain in the last episode, which was the Batman animated series. There are also movies a part of that series that you can watch. One of those are The Mask of Phantasm. That movie you can watch. There are some, differences and some changes, but there's a character in that if you watch my Arkham Origins series, I pointed out there is a letter from a girl, and that girl is one of the main characters in this movie. So The Mask of Phantasm has some great Joker part, although he does die at the end. We all know how the Batman animated series Joker is. He'll die and then he'll come back a few episodes later, so that is not crazy. So The Mask of Phantasm is a great one, and it's actually one of my favorite Batman movies to ever be made. I would say I haven't watched The Mystery of the Batwoman, but I would say maybe not. But that's up to you if you want to check it out. I've never watched it, like I said, but something about it seemed like maybe it wouldn't be in the Arkham series, although we know Batwoman, Kate Kane, does exist. So yeah, watch with care. And then there's a Mr. Freeze one called Sub-Zero. Now, Sub-Zero I think you can watch. If you watch the Mr. Freeze episode where he's busted out of jail, I mentioned it in the last episode. This is a follow-up to that movie. So, it's some more Mr. Freeze lore. He swims in the Arctic Ocean, which makes perfect sense. He's pretty practically naked when he does. I think that's great for the mythos of Mr. Freeze, because it just seems like he's more, fleshed out if he's swimming in Arctic oceans. It makes sense, too, right? And then there are some there's another one, but this will be after the Arkham series. So yeah, we'll discuss that one later. And then one more thing I would like to discuss is the Superman animated series. There is an episode in the Superman animated series that you can indeed watch. And that episode is called World's Finest. It's in season 1. If you watch that one, make sure you watch it at the very end, right before this episode here. So this episode here takes place after the Batman animated series has ran its course. Batman's so-called prime has ran its course, and we're having some problems within the Bat family. Barbara Gordon, along as Batgirl, is off on her own, kind of dealing with problems. She's doing detective cases, finding things out for Batman, really helping out James Gordon whenever he gets in a rough. Like, you can make a comic book series of comic books based off of her story. She does work with Batman quite a lot, but not as much as Dick Grayson's Robin. She's doing fantastic. She's doing great. There is no quarrels with her. She is in the Sub-Zero. So yeah, and she does have a little bit of a thing for Dick Grayson. They are the same age. Pretty much the same age. And so I think they do fall in love just a little bit until this episode here. Now, this episode basically is going to go over the rest of the Bat family members that are not in the animated series, and it'll lead up to where we are in Arkham Asylum. So, the Dick Grayson, so right now it is Batman, Batgirl, Dick Grayson, Robin, and, they're doing great, but Dick Grayson's having a little bit of a falling out. He's starting to become, like a rebel, a little bit of a rebel in his family. Like, we all grow up and we want to move out. This is kind of his moment. He doesn't want to be in the shadow of Batman anymore. He doesn't want to be talked around like he's still a kid. Like, Batman probably bosses him around like he's a kid. And then, of course, I gotta mention the other Bat family member, the infamous Alfred, is helping him out, kind of like telling him he can go off on his own. You need to go and find your own way. basically. You know, whatever it might be. Like, this is when Dick Grayson is like, okay, I'm gonna go. Bloodhaven needs help. We always are going up to Bloodhaven to help them out. There's no active superheroes that are making a massive impact, so I might as well go up there and help them out. So he dons the new mantle of a superhero called Nightwing. So Dick Grayson retires the mask and the cape and the boots of Robin, and, you know, becomes this Nightwing, and he's badass. Picture Superman or Spider-Man without powers and with like a black outfit. That is definitely who Nightwing is. He really does find himself, and it is it's great. Dick Grayson's doing great, but now Bruce Wayne's kind of at a point where, you know, he's starting to, like, you know, it's kind of sad for him to say goodbye, and but he knows it's necessary. He continues on as ever, but he really wants to go back to Park Row where it all started with Dick. You know, he can't hide it. You know, he loves Dick Grayson. That was his son, and he's moving out. You know, like any parent would. But he walks through Park Row and he finds a kid, you know, down on his luck in Park Row. Maybe 17, maybe 16, becoming an adult, but he's, you know, he's stealing from the tires off of a car. And, you know, as Batman, of course, he's going to stop it. But this kid just is strikingly similar to Dick Grayson in how Dick really needed help and needed a hand. So he does this. He does end up doing the same thing. Well, let's say he doesn't do it immediately. He doesn't just kidnap the kid. He does a little investigating in this kid. He goes to Leslie Tompkins, who lives in the same neighborhood. Has a little shop. She's much older now, completely gray hair, much more wrinkles. She kind of has she has a cane and she's a bit more hunched over. But she's still out there in Park Row doing her best for the people of Gotham. He asks Leslie basically who this kid is, and based on the description, it sounds exactly like a kid named Jason Todd. Jason Todd is down on his luck. I don't know exactly his background, but I think his dad is in jail, his mom is dead, and he's living rough. So this is another moment where Bruce takes him under his wing, basically. He goes and he finds him, he tracks him down, and he's not as attracted to Bruce Wayne as Dick Grayson was. He's more attracted to Batman and how this billionaire guy can be a rough guy at night beating, you know, criminals up. It really, he liked the more violent side of Batman than Dick Grayson liked Bruce Wayne and what Bruce Wayne could do for the people of Gotham, while Jason Todd really liked the brutal side, the Batman side. There's like a dynamic between the two. So Dick probably wanted Bruce Wayne to get better, to be better for the Gotham and to help people out in Gotham. And he really drives, you know, if you remember when we were on the cell block, how Alfred was like, you really need to make a character for Bruce Wayne. Otherwise, people will start suspecting. Dick Grayson really drives the nail in with that. Dick Grayson wants Bruce Wayne to be a great, caring, charitable billionaire. And Bruce Wayne's able to get both. He's able to become a playboy and a charitable donor. So he's both. But that was Dick Grayson. Now, Jason Todd wants Bruce to be harder on criminals. In Shadow, we find that, you know, Jason Todd, or that Bruce Wayne is like, that Batman finds out that these criminals aren't the worst people in the world. They're not his enemy. They're not evil. You know, they don't deserve to get treated the way they do. And Jason Todd disagrees. Jason Todd actually thinks these people need to die. That they should all be dead. That they don't deserve to live. And obviously I'm talking about the more violent criminals like Joker and like Two-Face. Because Two-Face in the animated series was for Tim what I believe he was for Jason. I mean, maybe Two-Face ruined his life. So he doesn't think they deserve to live. Obviously the criminals, the actual criminals themselves, they are fine. Because he was the same way. That would be very ironic if he did that. But yeah, he becomes Robin, and he becomes violent, and he becomes a bit more of a rebel than Dick was. He sneaks out at night even more, and Bruce Wayne cannot talk him down. He's really hard headed about it, and basically Jason Todd's like, he goes out on his own a lot. It's scary, for Bruce, and it actually ends up getting him to a really really tough spot because Joker had just bombed or gassed out an orphanage, and that was the final straw for Jason. He saw that Batman wasn't going to kill this monster, so he went out to look for him himself. And unfortunately, he died to that. So Jason Todd went out and tried to capture the Joker, kill the Joker, because if Batman can't do it, then might as well do it myself, right? So he goes out, tries to kill Joker, and he doesn't know, he underestimates Joker. Like most people underestimate Joker. He underestimates Joker, and it ends up being his doom, his end. So Bruce is really, really depressed after this. I mean, it is exactly like how when his parents died, how hard he was. He reverts back to his younger self a little bit. He becomes more violent on criminals and more brutal to criminals. And that's when Barbara steps back in a little bit. He becomes closer to Bruce. Maybe Dick does come back. He comes back more often, but it's more, it's like you would be to a parent, if you move out. I'll come back, but it's not going to be like it used to be, where I'm like your kid again. I'm not. I'm an adult, and I'm out. I'm ready. But Bruce is really, he becomes colder and darker than he usually does. Than he usually is. He becomes really hard on criminals. There's limits that he went to after Shadow that he breaks, and he goes even farther to take down criminals. And this sloppiness, and this, all this that's happening basically reveals a person by the name of Tim Drake to the doorstep. It leads him to there. And Tim Drake followed Batman and Robin since the the Flying Graysons incident. And basically he was able to deduce who Batman is, similar to how Bane did, but not, and he wants to help Batman, basically. And it takes a while, but Barbara actually is able to talk Bruce into bringing Tim Drake into the fold as well. Tim Drake's older than Jason Todd was. He's older, he's wiser, he's like, he's Dick Grayson's age, and he's basically the ideal person to be a Robin. He's volunteering, he is willing to help wherever he can. He also probably came from Park Row, similar to the rest of the Robins, and Bruce is not hearing it, though. It's like, it's tough for him to let him in, but Barbara and Alfred both talk him into it, and it would be nice to have a Robin on board that is actually not some kid that's going through a bit of a phase. But it is hard for Batman because he feels like he failed, and Jason Todd, it was it was really tough for him to deal with that. But he does eventually train him, and he trains him more hardcore than he did any of the other Robins. The other Robins, it was a gradual build. With Tim Drake, it was like he beat it into him. It was really fast. Barbara Gordon helped him out with the training of Tim Drake, and Barbara and Tim start to fall a little bit in love, similar to how Dick did with Barbara. But it looks like more of a future. There's more of a future to it. But Tim Drake, he may have been trained really hard by Barbara, and Dick comes from Bloodhaven to help him out a little bit. Because Batman is off in Wawa Land. He's training him, but you know, I don't know the full story. I'm not an expert, but you know what I mean. Bruce is training him, but it's a little bit more of like a heavy hand. So Barbara and Dick step in to help. Um, so yeah, Tim is trained really, really, really fast, and because he's an adult and he has more like function in his body, he knows how his body works. He's been doing athletics for a very long time. He's already a great athlete, so it doesn't take long. He's also probably a fighter. But we have the Robins now. Jason Todd, rest in peace, was a rebel, and he brought out the brutality in Batman that no one else could. Dick Grayson is the acrobatic, smart, and individual leader of for Batman. The OG. Same with Barbara Gordon. Barbara Gordon is the analytical, eye in the sky. Like Barbara really brings Bruce back to when he was younger and he was trying to, like fight crime for the good of Gotham. There is not a single bad bit of badness in Barbara. Like she is strong and independent, like how Bruce was. I mean, and then Tim Drake, the new one, comes in. He's like the ideal Robin. He's willing to help. He doesn't care about being in any shadow. He just wants to do good for Gotham with his childhood hero. Think of it like Tim Drake thinks of Batman the way Bruce Wayne thought of the Gray Ghost. It's very like it's like the next generation. Tim thinks of of Batman like Bruce thought of the Gray Ghost. I'm gonna do good for Gotham, and deliver justice. And justice to Tim Drake is the exact same way Barbara Gordon thinks of it, and Dick Grayson thought of it, and even Bruce Wayne thought of it after Shadow, especially in Shadow. They deserve prison. They deserve to go to they deserve a second chance. They all deserve a second chance. Unfortunately, with characters like Joker, there is no proper second chance because he's always going to kill people. But yeah, there's a lot to it, and Tim Drake is going to be there, and he's willing to be there for a good part. And Dick Grayson stepping into Gotham a little bit more, because Barbara practically talked him into it. Now the Bat family, Alfred still there, still around. It's still being like an Oracle, like how Oracle was at the end of Shadow. There's Batgirl, there's Batman, there's Dick Grayson as Nightwing, there's Tim Drake as Robin, and the family's more full. Jason Todd was a part of the family as well, but unfortunately he passed away, or he got kidnapped kidnapped and tortured and killed probably by Joker, which is tough. It's very tough to think about. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed it, please press the like button. So that is basically where we at the moment with the Bat family. Yeah, that is where I will be stopping. If you liked this video and you want more, please press like. I'll be playing the trilogy here soon, so be ready for that. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and goodbye.